Thank you for tuning in to Haiti Connection's discussion of being Black or Brown in America in a COVID world. I'm Jessica Devier. I'll be your moderator today, along with Junior Gilbert and Arnell Vilfour. We're going to discuss what it means to be Black and Brown, particularly today in America, in light of the horrific events happening to our community. But first, let's have our panelists who hail from all over the US introduce themselves. As I mentioned, I'm Jess Divya, and this is Alex. We're both located in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Hey there, I'm Marianne. I'm located in Tampa, Florida.
I'm Reggie Early, and I'm located in Connecticut.
I'm Lucy Pierre. I'm in Connecticut as well.
I'm Arnell Vilfour, and I'm located in Lawrenceville, Georgia.
And I'm Fadja Dauphin. I'm located in Canada.
I'm Carlos Gilbert. I'm located in Miami, Florida.
I'm Ryan Ellie. I'm located in St. Louis, Missouri.
We're Carlin and Gary, and we're located in Cincinnati, Ohio.
This is Ricky and Priscilla. We're located out of Virginia, DC metro area.
I'm St. Gilbert. I'm located in Brooklyn, New York.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm Hervey Gilbert, located in Orlando, Florida.
Great. I think we got everyone. Well, thanks to our panelists for joining us from all over. Before we begin, I just want to first give a few moments of silence in honor of our brothers and sisters who have been murdered because of the color of their skin. So we'll just take a few moments right now. So Black and Brown Americans are facing two deadly viruses today. The coronavirus, which is infecting and killing twice as many Black and Brown people than other racial groups, and another virus that has been festering in our country for hundreds of years, racism. More recently, the past couple of weeks have rocked our community hard with the blatant hate crime committed on Ahmaud Arbery, gross negligence, and lack of accountability in the killing of Breonna Taylor, who would have been 27 just this past Friday, Christian Cooper, who had the calls called on him for simply being Black while birdwatching, and now the murder of George Floyd by the hands of so-called public servants. So first, starting with the protest, these protests are taking place in all 50 states, even in 18 countries worldwide. So want to get a sense from the panel to see what's going on in your city. Can you talk about the energy that you're seeing.
I'm gonna answer this question, but it's gonna be in French. So as I told before, I'm located in Canada. So I'm gonna start, okay? Je pense que les manifestations sont une bonne chose, hein? Cela a tiré la sonnette d'alarme. On a eu effectivement une manifestation à Montréal et à Toronto durant ces 2 dernières semaines-là, mais ça n'a pas eu de cassure comme aux États-Unis qui avait beaucoup de pillages et tout, mais au Canada, c'était pas comme ça. Donc, alors pour continuer avec l'autre question, je pense pas que le nom de George Floyd provoquera un changement systématique. Pourquoi? Okay? Parce que certains changements peuvent être apportés au niveau de la police américaine sur la façon d'arrêter les Noirs. Ils ont fait trop d'abus, des arrestations arbitraires. Ce changement ne se fera pas du jour au lendemain, ok? Parce que le racisme a été inculqué dès le plus jeune âge à l'enfant. Et ça ne peut pas disparaître comme par enchantement à l'âge adulte. Donc, comme on dit, chasser le naturel, il revient au galop. Alors, pour ce qui est dans la dernière question, là, est-ce que cela a alimenté, attendez. Est-ce que vraiment est-ce que je peux dire cette violence a été alimentée par la présidence Trump? Oui. Je pense que il est le premier président, ok, Trump, il est le premier président à ne pas cacher ce qu'il ressent par rapport à certaines nations. Il dit verbalement ce qu'il ressent, et vous savez de qui? Les Noirs, et d'utiliser la force contre nous, là. Donc, maintenant, on peut voir que c'était les États-Unis avec un racisme caché, et maintenant, grâce à lui, et malheureusement pour nous, les autres, ils affichent leur racisme. Est-ce que le président peut... Attendez. Est-ce que le président peut prôner est-ce qu'un président peut vraiment prôner la violence comme ça et de prôner la division? Est-ce que la présidence, il n'a pas un leadership pour moi? Alors, c'est ça que je voulais répondre à toute la première question. Est-ce que quelqu'un a quelque chose à ajouter ou des commentaires? If somebody has something to add.
Hey there, everyone. So I did want to add to the question at hand. I first want to say thank you, Haiti Connection, for enabling us to use this platform to speak on some of these issues. And so, as I said before, I'm in Tampa, and the protests that are happening around the world, it has outraged everyone. Everyone's fed up. It's fueling everybody, and it's bringing an awareness to the racial injustices in America, and that it's impacting the Black community. So here in Tampa, there's been a lot of protests every day. And what's been 12 days, and so it's become less violent, no looting that I've been made aware of. So the protest does have everyone talking, and it's really empowered people to speak on the police brutality toward Black people. And it's time to definitely bring this to light and show that you can't continue to do these things with no accountability. So this is what's happening in Tampa. Anyone want to jump in?
Hi, everybody. Alex here with Jess and Berkeley. Thanks, Haiti Connect for the connection. But absolutely, I sort of compartmentalize with everything that you guys have said earlier. One thing that has surprised me, and what you were just saying, Annie, about needing the protests, I absolutely agree. I think being silent is the worst thing that can happen for us right now. On another note as well, personally, I've been very, I wouldn't say excited, but I've been happy to see how diverse the protests have gotten. And the reason I say that is because, you know, we've seen a lot of these events, especially in the past 5 to 6 years. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember these names, you know, Fernando Castillo, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, you know, the list goes on. But in most of these situations, it's always been Black and brown people protesting, Black and brown people asking for justice, and sometimes we ourselves, even myself, you know, it makes you feel like you're crazy a little bit, because it's like, why are we always the one asking for something? Why always now to have what seems like some allies? I don't know how much this movement is going to remain with having sort of this support, but lately, in order to bring highlight to this cause, so number one, absolutely agree with the protest. We can't stay silent. And number two, I've been enjoying how diverse the protests have gotten, because I feel like that's more than likely to bring us some results. If anyone wants to chime in, let's pass it on to someone else.
Anybody want to chime in further on this question? Personally, for me, I can say I believe that something like this was going to happen. It was bound to happen. It was on the uprise of happening, and the severity of the recent occurrences that happened were just a last straw for the Black community, especially at a time like this. We're dealing with coronavirus. A lot of people, unemployment rates are really high right now. So this is something in the United States that's become like the people are saying they're at a civil unrest in this point in time. And with social media nowadays, this is how we catch the news. News is traveling faster through social media nowadays. Like, we're seeing all these people protesting, you know, while I'm at work and stuff. You know, you look at your phone and it's protests. You know, you're seeing, you know, Black Lives Matter, and this is a big movement that's being stirred. A lot of people are talking about it. So that's what I'm seeing in my city of Orlando right now. It's peaceful protests, but in other areas that are closer to these situations, that are feeling the pain of these deaths, it's a lot more rowdy.
Hey everyone. Yeah, first of all, we'd like to thank Haiti Connexion for inviting us to this panel. It's a really good discussion. And from what I'm hearing, it's more or less the same in the DC metro area, the capital. Aside from the inner city area, we've seen a lot of energy. A lot of people, especially like the different counties, they are pushing for more open conversation internally, and to, you know, we are encouraging, or they are encouraging the community to come together and just to have a blatant conversation, just to kind of address the, you know, the elephant in the room. And the protests are disrupting, you know, general normal activities around the metro area. But, you know, from that second part of the question, as far as the catalyst, I do believe, just like Ryan Jr. said, the recent events with the coronavirus and the lockdowns, people, you know, it's easy to get frustrated. And with this police brutality being on display, was kind of the tip of the iceberg. So a lot of people, you know, it just kind of pushed a lot of people not only to get out, but to really speak out against being, you know, choked, as they say. And the fuel to the fire is, you know, like Junior said, social media is good to get the news, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because a lot of false news do get spread out, and that enrages the public. So it causes riots, which also kind of undermine the original point of the movement. So it's just a lot of weird energy, bad energy mixed with good energy, and you have a lot of good community that are doing a lot of, you know, effort to bring out like the good out of all the bad that's being displayed. So it's just a lot of things to take into account. And yeah, so we're just, we're standing by, we're encouraging, we're engaging our peers to talk about it. But, like I think someone mentioned, it's just worse just to remain silent. So that's it. Thank you.
I want to add a little bit. I don't know if anyone here has been to a protest, but I haven't. And that's primarily because of COVID-19. I don't want to be around a bunch of people screaming. I don't want to put myself at risk like that. But what's interesting about that is that, I turn to social media a lot to find out what's going on. And depending on who or where you're looking, you're going to get two different sides of the story. So it makes it really hard to filter through what's true and what's not, and come up with an opinion. For example, I follow a lot of Black conservatives, and not that I agree with them, but I want to hear what other Black conservatives are saying. Like, for example, Candace Owens, the Hodge twins. These are Black conservatives. Now, I don't agree with Candace Owens at all. I actually think she's very, very, I think she gets paid for what she says. But, if what I'm finding with the protests is that I don't know if it's creating more divide amongst conservatives and liberals, but I'm still trying to digest what's happening and trying to figure out where I stand with everything. I mean, I stand with the protests, but I'm trying to figure out if this is actually creating a divide or if it's actually going to start helping making progress. Ultimately, I'm noticing that younger people are the ones that are more vocal about these things, and I think the younger generations, Generation Z, millennials, are the ones that are actually probably going to be the ones making a change. And I really haven't seen older people on social media saying much about it outside of Black people. Like, I don't see any white people or white conservatives saying much except for agreeing with other Black conservatives who are completely bashing it or bashing George Floyd's character and distracting from the point. So, from my perspective, it's very messy. The protests are getting hijacked. The message is getting flooded. So I think a new strategy is to try to figure out a way to protest using social media to make sure the message doesn't get flooded with all this other junk going on.
Thank you. I just want to comment that I think the jury is still out on whether, we're actually going to see any radical change or any gradual change from this movement. But I think with the protest, it at least highlights that there's an issue. And I think even just the fact that these protests have gained momentum even globally, at least it is getting that attention. And we've already seen, Minneapolis Police Department already, calling for even stricter reform. The city of Los Angeles, they've already pushed, 150 million away from LAPD. So I do think that there are small wins that, we are getting from this movement, but there's obviously a lot more work to be done. And I think, obviously being under a Trump administration, that divide has been made clear. So I don't expect the country to unify anytime soon, but at least, these issues are kind of coming to light. So kind of want to shift, if no one else has any further comments on, protests going on in their city, do kind of want to shift to those of you that are parents. All of this going on in our country kind of, may force you to have these conversations with your kids, and you might think that they're too young. So do you want to hear from the parents? Are you starting to have these talks with your kids about racism? And how do you feel about your children living in a society where one day they can be seen as a threat and also be victimized?
Thank you, Jess, for the question. So it definitely has forced us to bring this issue at home and to talk it over. I have a mother of 2 Black sons. My oldest is 10 years old, and I never thought I would be talking about racism so early on in his childhood, but I have. And in the last 10 years, as you know, there's been so many tragedies, you know, brothers and sisters being killed, and the kids are exposed. So many issues now are on social media, and the kids do know about it. And I have had the talk about what racism means, and that some people will judge you solely on the color of your skin. And it's definitely heartbreaking to have to talk about this now. So.
Hi, this is Vanessa. I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida. So just to chime in, you know, I'm a mother of 5 children. My oldest is 20, but our son is 19. And we've talked about racism to all of our children. Our youngest is 5. And this is really embedded for us in our household as a continuous conversation. And it comes to us to speak to them as easily as we discuss about our biblical and cultural history. Our family takes the standpoint of that it's a disservice, and it really adds to a development of generational fear instead of awareness, to only await for these types of situations and incidents to catalyze a conversation about this. So we embed these understandings in our household as much as we would expect, really, from a professional standpoint, any external institution to do the same. For example, we would want from day one our corporate executives, our business leaders, to have a discussion or have some accountability and acknowledgement at recognizing these issues on our behalf. We look for affinity groups to speak on behalf of or represent or support us. And we don't wait for issues to arise or we would rather not wait for issues to arise for us to start having a conversation. And from that perspective, as a parent, we start having that from day one. As soon as your child starts to understand in conversation some basic things when they're in school about commonalities and differences, when they are cognizant enough to ask you questions about what is going on in the world, I feel like they're old enough to be able to understand, at least on a fundamental level, such conversations related to racism and preparedness and awareness, right? So I fear as much as any parent would for the safety of their children, especially in this system of things. But we do not deflect that fear onto them in order to prepare them to navigate more logically in this society. So our control is limited to our own actions. So I can only prepare them to be accountable for their own positions and actions, and to be aware of how they're going to handle themselves in different situations that they might encounter. And yeah, so that's my viewpoint.
Anybody else want to chime in on these questions? How are your kids? Are your kids in a diverse setting?
Well, can we speak now? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Do we have the floor? Yeah, so I don't know, Gary, you wanted to mention something.
First of all, just thank you for the lending your ears to our thoughts. Haiti connection, that's so humbling. But on behalf of what we see here into the question, I take the perspective, the stance, the viewpoint from Scripture, the Bible. What we teach, like Joshua, who led Israel, for in our house we will serve the Lord, and that's what we want to do. We want to serve the Lord. And Scripture says that the Lord does not have a respect of person. that's what we teach in our household. We don't have respect. We don't have partiality or biases towards any ethnic group. So that's something that we want to echo and really build a foundation in our children's minds and eyes and perspective, that there aren't any partiality. We don't deem ourselves diminutive or inferior to anyone.
Nos enfants ont 6 et 3 ans, donc ils ne comprennent pas encore la différence, si je peux dire ça. Ils ne comprennent pas encore ce que cela charrie d'être blanc ou d'être noir. Et encore, j'aurais bien préféré qu'ils s'acceptent comme ils sont, qu'ils acceptent les autres aussi comme ils sont. So, je ne pense pas que je leur parlerai de racisme à proprement parler, parce que cela leur mettrait en tête soit d'avoir peur des Blancs ou soit d'être agressif face aux Blancs. Donc, je dirais plutôt, je vais les laisser comme ils sont et ils vont faire leur choix dans le futur.
Alors, si je veux ajouter à ce que la femme de Reggie là a dit, alors nous, on vient dans un pays où on n'est pas habitué avec le racisme. Si je dis en Haïti, là, c'est plus dans un autre niveau, là. C'est les mulattes, mais on ne parle jamais de racisme. Ils disent préjugés, c'est ça qu'ils disent. Mais nous, là, qui venons, on est immigrés dans un autre pays, on n'est pas habitué avec ce genre d'histoire. C'est quoi le racisme? Oh, il n'aime pas ma couleur de peau. Tout ça, c'est très nouveau pour nous. Donc, exemple, ma fille, là, qui a 12 ans, elle me dit, mamie, et je lui ai dit, mais qu'est-ce qui se passe dans le monde actuellement, là? Et puis, elle m'a dit que, ah, mamie, on a tué un homme, George Floyd, pour sans raison. Là, elle a commencé à comprendre. Je lui ai dit, oui, c'est vrai, parce que aux États-Unis, on a une histoire vraiment. Et que les États-Unis sont vraiment basés sur le racisme. Et qu'il ne faut jamais laisser les gens te dire que tu ne peux pas devenir quelqu'un de grand, ou bien ils te dirigent, par exemple, l'enfant dans le sport, dans les affaires, mais comme si pas vraiment dans leur rêve. C'est comme si le noir doit être minimisé dans un petit rêve, et tandis que l'enfant peut être aspiré à devenir n'importe quoi dans la vie. Donc, chaque jour, moi aussi, j'essaie de comprendre. Par exemple, là où je vis au Canada, je sais qu'il y a le racisme, là où je suis, mais les gens, ils n'affichent pas ça, disons, face à face. Mais leur attitude prouve vraiment qu'ils ont un petit problème. Mais étant donné que moi, je viens dans un pays, je ne suis pas habituée avec ce genre d'histoire, mais moi, je leur fais comprendre que je viens faire ce que j'ai à faire. Moi, je n'ai pas le temps pour regarder la couleur de ta peau. D'ailleurs, si quelqu'un vient me dire que, oh, je ne veux pas être traité parce que tu es noir, moi, je dis, je n'ai pas de couleur. Et puis, c'est tout. J'ai besoin le respect, vous devriez me respecter également. Donc, c'est ça que je voulais ajouter. Mais je sais que nous, en tant que parents, on a beaucoup de travail à faire, à connaître vraiment, nous-mêmes qui venons dans un autre pays, vraiment, c'est quoi le racisme vraiment. Donc, c'est ça que je voulais dire.
And I just want to ask a follow-up question pertaining to, what exactly your kids, are learning even about their own, Black history while they're in school. So Colleen, I'm not sure if you can give kind of perspective into how you think, even someone like Josh's age, what are they learning maybe?
Well, okay, I have 4 children. My oldest, he's 8, or he's 9 actually, and our district does a really good job incorporating Black history. I don't want to say just through Black History Month, but they do a good job as far as incorporating just Black history throughout the year, which, and you said, and Gary added, minorities in general, it's not just Blacks. So it actually, it was an impetus for me to actually bring upon some more literature on Black history, because I didn't want his school to be the first to present it. Jonah. So Now, I did see a question pop up saying, what are parents to do when your children experience racism at the school? First and foremost, I would ask exactly what happened, and then I would go to the teachers or the adult that was involved. I can say that in my experience, I'm very involved with the school. I know exactly what goes on in the classroom. And if my son is reprimanded or brings home a note from his teacher for any type of behavioral issues, I will address the teacher and ask exactly what it is that occurred to kind of decipher for myself if there is any racism involved, because I don't think my son really can quite pinpoint whether or not he's being treated differently because of his race. So I feel like it's my job in order to decipher whether or not he's being treated unfairly or not. And I will, over the years, start addressing these issues with him when he's old enough to understand why he will be treated differently. But at this point, because he is 9, I really do take that's my responsibility to address any situation that occurs at school, even if it looks, if it's just a inkling of an issue with his race, I will bring it up. I don't let it slide, or I don't, sweep it up under the rug. I do take initiative to make a conference call, shoot an email to the teacher, and just inquire and dig deeper to see, is my son really being treated differently, or is he, really behaving the way his teacher said he was behaving? So I am very involved. I don't just take the back seat when it comes to issues at the school. So I hope is that answering your question, Jess?
Yep, that answers it perfectly. Thank you for your input.
I want to piggyback off that. I actually think that's a good approach, not only for Black parents, but for all parents. And that's something we should probably suggest to white parents as well, to make sure that if their kids are getting disciplined, can they make sure that make sure their kids aren't being racist? Because sometimes kids will be racist and their parents will have no idea. So, I grew up, in the same area where Colleen's kids are growing up. And there were times where kids are racist and their parents have no clue. Only because kids are being kids, they hide things from their parents. They like to use the N-word and stuff like that. So I think as this is becoming more to light and more people are asking, what can we do? I think that really is something that we have to talk about and make sure that, if you really want to help, you need to talk to your kids about it. You need to, dig deep in and make sure that, your kids have the best intentions when it comes to, racist issues or racial issues. Because I think that's something that a lot of parents of non-Black kids don't even think about. So that was a good point, Colleen. And I think that's a hot point in my perspective.
Okay, I just want to chime in on this question. I don't have any kids or anything, but coming from Florida, being raised in Orlando, it's been a diverse area where, we have Hispanics, we have Latinos, Caucasians, Asians, all the whole diaspora is here. But one thing I can say from my experience is that Black history isn't emphasized how it should be. Being a recent graduate from Florida A&M University, HBCU, you aren't taught things like, the Haitian Revolution, things about Mansa Musa, the Moorish civilization. It's just they just touch basis on Black History Month, and I feel like there's more that needs to be known to children that isn't until they reach higher levels of education.
Hi, this is Vanessa. I just wanted to add, I absolutely am in agreement with the points that Carlin made earlier. And to add to that, here in West Palm, Florida, in our school district, we have a multicultural education department and committees. And while the schools have their own individual curriculum for multicultural events for different groups, the committee at the district supplements that with programs annually to educate the children about different cultural groups and different histories. I want to add that it is I feel like we want to always remember, while it's important to hold accountability to our school systems to be able to educate our young children about these things, in addition to what they have to be prepared for on their regular curriculums, it's our job as a community, as parents, as business partners, as society members, to provide that education as well to our students. I'm part of the district's advisory committee, the school's advisory council, and I'm really not sure how that's broken, how that is broken up in different districts, different counties, and different areas. But if you do have these types of advisory committees, you can make these opinions known, you can present different ideas and approaches, and make these presentations as to how you want or what you want to be presented in the classrooms that your children are a part of. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, and I'm really in agreement with a lot of what Carlin said in support of that. And really, if parents are more involved in the programs, in the committees, to make their voices heard about what they want on their children's agenda, that they would get it because you're at the seat and they welcome that opinion and those points of view and perspectives into making decisions into what is presented in the classrooms.
Thank you, Vanessa. Just in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on to the next question. So we all know that, you know, Black men and women have been killed while running, at home, asleep in bed, or playing video games, talking on their cell phone in their own backyard, or just walking to the corner store to get, you know, some Skittles and iced tea, even for just riding in a car, and the list goes on. So kind of want to tap into, you know, more personal experiences growing up Black and brown in America. Do you feel like you've been treated differently? Do you feel like white privilege exists?
I'd like to answer this one. I'm here in St. Louis, so I have actually dealt with that. I think the first thing that we could kind of all agree with is that when somebody sees the color of your skin, especially if you're a Black male, is the slight hesitation on what your ability to do. Like, it could be with anything. There's always some type of a hesitation there. And then there's always, like, I guess, yeah, I would just keep it with the slight hesitation. So I'm currently in the Midwest, and if anybody that's lived in the Midwest, they'll know that there's a lot of passive aggression over here. So as an engineer, everything that you do has to be checked, has to be double checked, triple checked. And from what I've experienced is like, it's just that hesitation that I was kind of talking about, being maybe one of the only Black engineers in the room where some of my abilities can necessarily get questioned on, what my inputs are. And it's sometimes they do it like as if it's a second nature, and they don't understand or they don't realize what's going on or how they're doing, because the only person that can notice it is the only minority in the room. And like, that's from a corporate America standpoint on that slight hesitation, just based off of my skin color. That's kind of something I kind of wanted to point out on my personal experience. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Vanessa. So I'm an engineer here in West Palm Beach, Florida, And I've been working in this industry for about 20 years now. And what I can say as a professional woman at my level of experience at the table, in the past, when I was younger and I've had ideas to present at the table or in the boardroom, it would feel from my perspective, pretty much the same type of experience. Like, why am I feeling like I'm getting overlooked or not being heard or represented in these groups? As I've grown with experience, my experience has been changed a little bit. And I want to say that I feel like it's because of, with time, the way that my presence is in the room has matured. My work and my reputation now precedes me. And when I do come into the room, it's less for me a question of whether or not there are privileges that I am not extended, but more of a level of professional respect and attention. So that is a little hard to decipher when you're early in your career, until you've elevated into later stages in your career. But that's not to say that we don't have the good old boys club type of environment still existing today. So I'm not going to discount that, because that does exist. But what I will say is, while there is a perception of white privilege that exists, I feel like the perpetuating of this white privileged perception exists when our community, our members, our counterparts of color, we're not prioritizing the power of our community in terms of our quantitative measure for endorsing a change in that environment and that policy, right? So if we're at the table, if it's just me or another person, and we're sponsoring each other and we're supporting each other, or even if we find another counterpart professionally who is not of our race, but they can sponsor us, and we kind of align with them, that makes so much more of a difference, because white privilege exists as far as we allow it to exist and continue. So once you create a presence and you create your voice, that kind of controls the narrative of your situation. And then you have to really question, is it really a matter of privileges or a matter of how much power of presence you have with, with whoever you're aligning with to do so? So I think that's another perspective to consider.
I'd like to chime in on that question as well. I agree with you, Carl. Like, it's the best way that I could describe white privilege is, it doesn't mean like your life hasn't been hard. It just means your skin color is not what's making your life hard, because it's just because racism is intertwined in every institution in the American society. It's just really hard to get Black people into those rooms, because we're already starting behind, just even, in the medical field, the educational field. It's like, it's really hard to get people that look like us in those spaces to create those opportunities. So it's just, people have those implicit biases where even if they want to give you opportunity, it's just your skin color is automatically seen as a weapon or as a threat. So it's definitely hard to just, it's definitely hard to navigate. So, yeah.
Can I add to that also?
Oh yeah, so very quickly, I wanted to add a part also relating to sort of the workplace, and I'm gonna go very quickly. Where I see it the most here in San Francisco, the Bay Area, has to do with even the onboarding process. So a lot of work have this policy where they tell you they love references. So the work loves references because it's a sure bet, it's someone you know. But unfortunately, a system like references doesn't work for us, because that would have already have assumed that we have a lot of people that we know in places or in workplaces. And time and time again, you meet groups at different tech firms that I've worked at, and they say the same thing. It's like, well, how did you get in? Well, I knew so-and-so, who knew so-and-so. We went to USC together. And to me, I look and I internally laugh because I hope, and in my head, I'm saying, I hope you realize that if you didn't know someone here, you don't have to go to the application like everyone else. So that's again another part of it. It's like, we're already so small in numbers. You know, the average tech firm has about 3 to 5% Black people, not minorities. They'll report a higher number for minorities because they usually, you know, add, you know, Asians or something else in it. But when you look at Black people, it's usually between 2, 3%, 4%. So even the point of being recruited to have a shot to work at those firms, you're already at the disadvantage because we don't know as many people to bring us on.
Ricky, I know you've been wanting to chime in.
Thank you. Yeah, so all of you guys have highlighted a lot of things that I was gonna say. I would also just say, in my personal experience, I've experienced prejudice, racism, but I think a lot of it was not intentional, or it wasn't really like, you know, it wasn't really done towards me per se. And also I've experienced it from minorities to other minorities. So it's not, to me, you know, just to give you a quick background, I've done a lot of travels, and I've seen how a lot of different cultures have interacted. And because of what I've seen, what I've gathered in the years, I like to say that, you know, racism in America is something that you will see in other places. We call it prejudice, but it's something, you know, something people do naturally, or they may not even notice that they're doing it. So, and, you know, as a perfect example to Alex's point, we don't have a lot of minorities in position of control or power, or to be able to influence change. So when it comes to the workforce, or like corporate America, I didn't get my, you know, I would say I had my job because I knew someone. And I've come across a lot of people that, you know, they got in their position because they knew someone as well. And the person that I knew, he is a minority, but because of our connections, you know, with like other programs like fraternities and other clubs in college, like collegiate clubs. So people use that to build connection as a form of networking, and you help each other in that sense. So I think it's sort of an old tradition that a lot of, you know, people in power, which happens to be mostly Caucasian, it's something that they use, and it's worked in the past. But until we can get more people like, you know, in those positions, then we really can't, it's really hard to kind of argue against that in a way. So, I mean, it is true that it should be based on your qualifications and everything, but at the same time, people like to hire people that they know and that they already have an instant connection with. So just to be a little devil's advocate. Thank you.
I want to add something.
I was gonna, okay.
I want to add something about what Ricky said. When I came to Canada, and then I was filling an application, and in Canada, trust me, they really need references. If somebody don't talk to you, even if you have a good one, somebody said something about you, you're not gonna get the job in Canada. So when I was filling an application and they say, I'm gonna say in French, minorités visibles, I was shocked. And I said to the person, why you put that word? Oh, this is the way it is in Canada. They have to know if you're Black. I don't know why they are doing this for me. Discrimination. So I was not really happy because I'm not used to those things, you know, minority, to know if you're Black or brown or white. This is a matter of people. Why do you have to know about my color of my skin, you know, to engage me in a work? I don't understand that. So it was really shocking for me when I see, you know, minority. So this is what I want to add.
Okay, so thank you, Haiti Connection, for giving us this platform to express these problems. I kind of join Ryan and Ricky because we basically in the same boat. So as an engineer working in corporate America, I would say it's always an issue when they see a Black engineer. Like, especially for me, having like an accent, so they always think that you don't know anything. You don't know what you're talking about. You always have to prove yourself that you can do the same work that they are doing. I would say right at the beginning of my career, I would say I struggle a lot, not in a sense that I didn't know what I was doing, but in a sense that they had to check my work over and over and over until they realized that, well, he's a good engineer. He knows what he's talking about. He knows his stuff. So yeah, I kind of join you guys, Ryan and Ricky. Corporate America can be tough. That's what I wanted to add.
Well said, Reggie. Well said, Reggie. Okay, so moving forward, we also know amongst the protests and things that are going on with the Black community, we'll further into our next questions in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. What effects of the pandemic, if any, are contributing to the nationwide protests? Are Americans fed up? The disparities between brown and Black people in white America are glaringly coming to light as Black and brown people are dying at a faster rate, since they may have underlying health conditions but are forced to the frontline positions, ringing up our groceries, delivering our food, packages, working in public transportation in places without hazard pay, or routine access to health care. And if they are lucky to receive health care, they may be perceived to have a high pain tolerance, so their medical needs may be ignored. Black and brown people are also losing their jobs at high rates while already living in tough economic situations. So do we think all of these factors are driving people to say enough is enough and protest? Does anybody want to chime in on that question?
That's a very, very complex question. So I think a lot of people have to just digest it first. But yeah, I think it's all part of the same systematic issues. You know, I think, you know, the pandemic has just highlighted how deep the issues are when it comes to disparities between Black people or other minorities, you know, and you know, life in America. So I think it has highlighted it. Obviously, it has highlighted individuals differently. I think amongst this group, you know, there's more people that are educated in this group of Black people than you would have in some other groups, and same for other minorities, you know, that do service-oriented jobs. So, you know, it's something that I think after COVID-19, I think there's going to be a lot more transparency when it comes to, you know, some of these issues that that Black people are having or people of color are having. So, you know, it's a very complex question, and you know, that's something that is going to take some time for us all to kind of come up with solutions and figure out, you know, how we're going to maneuver through this one. But personally, I think for my family, I think you know, it shed light on, you know, how dependent we are on these on corporate America, and it kind of just made us realize that, you know, we need to be more independent. So, you know, me and Liz have been thinking about ways that we can become more independent, maybe start a business on our own, so that way, you know, we're not so dependent on the system.
I think that this pandemic has really exposed a lot of, you know, ugly things about our history and about the way our government works, and especially in the Black and Brown community, you can see what our priorities are. You know, as you can see, there was protests earlier where people were protesting their right to get a haircut, their right to wear masks. You know, they felt like that was them being oppressed, whereas we are watching our people be killed in the street. It's like you see the disassociation that they have with the issue sometimes, and it's like, enough is enough, because we are fed up, we are tired, because on top of dealing with a pandemic, now we're seeing, you know, again, yet another name, you know, represent the racial injustice. So it's just like, everything is coming to light and people are fed up, and I think you can't police how people want to react because people are angry, and I think it's justified that this is what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely, Arnell and Carl. I did want to add to this, and yes, it is a heavy question, and for the right reasons, because there's so many things going on, so many things have been exposed, and I think now that we're in a position to reflect and notice all of the disparities, society as a whole, everyone is coming together to try and emphasize that we need to make some changes. Okay, yes, we're still dealing with COVID. It's still relevant. There are still no solutions that we know of, but just enough to where we need to protect ourselves and protect our families. Yet we have yet another issue. We have the social and racial injustices that we're facing right now. And so that too needs to be in the forefront. So I think as a society, we've been ignored too long, or issues have been put off to the side and not brought back to light, so that now everybody is saying enough is enough. And, you know, if more of us that are not speaking on these issues are trying as a society to make some changes, or at least make your voices be heard, I think that will help keep these topics going. So.
Okay, I believe Emerson, you had something to say as well.
I've been very silent for the whole time, and I also want to take time to say hi to everybody, and also to thank Haitian Connection to allow us to be right there gathering together to discuss some of the issues that really impact, you know, society. Regarding the question of COVID, it was something that was really trouble for me, because the Black community, they at some point downplayed the impact of this virus, because, you know, it's something I've been really tracking since you know, late December, because due to what I do on trading, like, you know, looking at the financial indexes and all that, and this is something when you first impact China and some of the economics, some of the companies that I actually followed, and they were just kind of like, you know, accusing lower profit. And I know, and I just, like, you know, ever since I just start like tracking the virus, know exactly how does it affect. And when I kind of like know exactly what, you know, what was going to be like the cause, like, you know, how it would impact people's health. And I really got scared about, like, you know, how it would affect the Black community, knowing that, you know, underlying health conditions like the hypertension, all this stuff. But people would just really minimize it in terms of that it's something that would affect only Black people, only white people, like older white people. And then nobody really care about it until it really hit us, like, to a point where like nobody would know exactly what's going on. And I was really, really, really frightened, because due to what I also work in the New York transit system, and I know I was going to be exposed to that, because I have, you know, I encounter, like, you know, 1,000 people every day, and that I have to do something to, you know, to prevent myself from getting infected. And I know at some point I was gonna be like, you know, infected, but yeah, I kind of like, mentally I was just, you know, remain strong and change my diet, change everything in terms of have more intakes of vitamin C, of everything, to a point that if because I know, like, you know, New York City, you know, based on how we, you know, it's a very congested city and all that, so I know it was going to be like really, you know, it was going to hit us really bad. And yeah, so I did, and you know, we have everything at once, and with the, you know, with the protests, and I don't know what else to say in terms of, but I think we really, you know, we have a lot to do. We have a lot to, you know, to put in perspective, to you know, to upgrade our community.
Can I add something? Sorry. Or
Yes, go ahead.
okay, thank you. Yeah, that was a lengthy question indeed, and my point to or my answer to that is there have been protests prior to the BLM protest or movement. So the coronavirus did have some effect to not just minorities, but especially here in the Virginia area, it had a lot of effect on people that love guns per se. So like there was recent laws during the whole coronavirus where Virginia was trying to implement stricter laws for people to be able to obtain guns and stuff or ammunition. And there was, you know, a lot of people showed up, or they showed up to protest against that bill or that law that was supposed to be passed. And they weren't afraid to go out and protest, and they did so peacefully. Although, you know, what they brought out was, you know, it could be seen as a little intimidating, because they came out, you know, dressed up, armed to the teeth, and they essentially came down to the district, and they protested. And even after that, I believe we saw people protesting the lockdown. So it's just something about being told to stay, or, you know, like a community feeling like they're being choked. And the minorities, especially, you know, with Black people, they felt all of it all at once, including like the police brutality. So if whatever we saw people were protesting about lockdown, Black people were protesting not only that, but all the injustice prior. So it was a very compound effect over a course of a few weeks. But because we're all at home, because we're all connected, we're on social media, we're contributing to people speaking out more. Like, not everybody is able to work, but what you can do, you can speak out against, you know, you can speak out against injustice. So there's a lot of opportunity to make this movement matter, where it didn't, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, or where we don't have to be in the same position in the next 4 or 5 years. Because it seems like something like that has been happening every few years, but this year is just kind of, you know, taking a really a good approach. And, you know, I think someone mentioned earlier, we're just hoping that the movement can last long enough to impose new bills, new policies, you know, to be brought up to the Senate or, you know, the Congress, for them to actually impose laws that would help, you know, equality and social injustice. So thank you.
And I agree with what everyone is saying, particularly what Ricky just mentioned. COVID has brought to light some things that were overlooked by the majority population. I think we all knew to some extent some of the issues that minorities have struggled with here in America and in other places where we are the marginalized population. I remember when I was in school, I took a sociology class and I learned about all the different issues that people of color had to deal with, but there were no solutions. And I remember thinking to myself, well, isn't someone going to do something? Isn't anyone going to hear? What's next? After all the research that's been done in the United States, all the statistics, all the news, what's going to be done? I thought it would have happened when Trayvon was murdered, but it all died off. Then you had all the others, back to back, no response. Now COVID had a way of shutting everything down so that the only thing that people could look at is the news, right? So COVID has done something for society where we all can just slow down and really take a look at what's really going on here socially, the injustices. So I'm really thankful that we are even able to use this platform to actually talk, because that's where it starts. Let's just talk about it. And we're not the only ones. I've noticed that there are also Caucasian folks up in high places having conversations too about racism in America. We got a memo from our local government. They are asking for anyone who wants to participate on forums just like this, so that we can address the issues that people of color are dealing with. So I'm really satisfied with how Black people and brown people and Caucasian people, I'm really excited to see what's next, because I've been asking this for a long time. I remember when the beating happened, what was his name? The LAPD, when they beat, I can't think of his name, Rodney King. I remember that. I was probably about maybe 9 or 10, the same age as my son right now. I remember that. I remember my parents, and I remember the protests. I remember the whole conversation about it, thinking, wow, you know, that's really messed up as a 9-year-old. And now here we are about 15, 20 years later, and I'm still asking why? Why is this still happening? So I think COVID has brought to light a lot of things that really need to be addressed. And it's really good that we are even sitting here just talking about it, you know? So yeah, I agree with what Ricky has to say and what everyone else is saying. And I think it's good to just start off right here where we are and addressing certain things so that the next generation won't have to experience some of the atrocities that we've experienced in our generation. That's all I have to say.
Well said, Carlene. All right, Alex.
Okay, so I know we have very little time left. I'm literally gonna take 30 seconds and make this point. First of all, I agree with everyone regarding sort of the health impact of COVID before COVID and now during COVID. One aspect that is also not talked about a lot is this immense wealth transfer that happened in the United States of America a month and a half ago. You have $2 trillion that was your tax money that went to corporations, and Black businesses only got 4% of that money. So this is just another point, and I enjoy that Carlene is hopeful, and yes, we need to have those conversations. But time and time again, we see where Black people, Black businesses are overlooked in a lot of these conversations. And it's sad. It's very sad. You have organizations like the LA Lakers who actually returned $100,000 because they got it and they didn't need it. So yeah, there's like the health aspect of COVID, but I think also there's a financial aspect of all this money that was transferred to corporations, and we're seeing none of it.
Hi. So So my name is Priscilla again. I'm working in a hospital right now, and I am like helping to run the clinical trials for COVID-19 actually. And it's been hard not only because of the fact that I have to work full time, but also like the kids are home and trying to get them to do schoolwork at the same time. But it's also very stressful because I'm dealing with like COVID at work and then just hearing about COVID at home. So it's like very, it can take a toll on you emotionally as well. But trying to balance working and also having the kids at home has been tough because you got to make sure that they're also doing their work and staying educated at the same time as like the world seems to be crashing around you. So, but luckily I have a good support system. Like he's at home most of the time, even though he's working. And luckily my sister is also at home, so we have her also helping us. But I don't know what I would do if like my sister wasn't here, and we would kind of have to like try to figure this out. Sometimes I work from home only once a week, but like I said, since I'm helping running these clinical trials, I'm pretty much at work like 5 days a week. So, but yeah, that's how I've been handling it.
Hi, Priscilla. I wanted to piggyback off of what you just said. So I also have to work at a hospital too. So fortunately, I do have a support system. So the support system that did help, especially teaching or actually helping with schoolwork at home. My husband's working from home, and then I'm, working nights. And so having that helped. And so I imagine others that didn't have the support system during this and how this might have been challenging for them as well. So for myself, it's not bad, but it's just thinking about leaving home and still protecting myself, because I do have to go back home to the kids and to also be a mom and a wife. And so it really has, it was challenging, yet, you really start to make things more important, or really look at the issues and change things in the household. So.
Si je peux ajouter quelque chose par rapport à la question, et les gens qui ne travaillent pas à la maison, et que moi, spécialement, je travaille, et, comment on peut dire, une front line, comme on dit. Donc, je fais face à beaucoup de patients qui ont le Covid, et qui, donc, c'est vraiment triste de voir qu'il y a des gens qui meurent, et que malgré qu'on prend toutes les précautions possibles et inimaginables, ça peut être 50% de chance que vous pouvez l'attraper. Je peux prendre l'exemple sur moi parce que je l'ai attrapé malgré toutes les précautions que j'ai pu prendre. Donc, j'ai pris le Covid, bon, je me suis soignée et tout, mais c'est quelque chose qu'on doit faire face, qu'on doit vivre avec, toujours prendre les précautions possibles, parce que on ne sait pas vraiment quand est-ce que ça va partir. Donc, et aussi d'un autre côté, je pense que le Covid aussi, les gens qui travaillent à la maison ont du temps pour passer avec leur famille, ont le temps vraiment pour connaître les enfants, ont le temps vraiment pour s'asseoir, réfléchir et savoir, mais qu'est-ce que je vais faire? Prendre un temps pour soi, pour savoir vraiment qu'est-ce que le futur va m'apporter après tous ces événements-là. Donc, je pense que quand même, il faut toujours continuer à prendre les précautions. Donc, c'est ça que je voulais ajouter.
Yeah. So since the whole virus started, I've been working like crazy. I don't recount ever take, but like 3 or 4 days. I think the only time I stayed home was like the only time I was sick, and I think I caught the virus. But we've been working ever since, and I actually have to liberate myself, request a day off, because now we start having people coming back to work. but to, just to have that day off. But this city, like I said, I'm in the transit. I work in transit, so we have to keep the city running. We have to keep things moving. And unfortunately, the mayor have been really good, and also the governor of this state. We're really proactive in terms of facilitating us to work, give us gloves, face shield every time that we're going out there, and also keep certain distance between us and people who are actually commuting. And yeah, but at first I was like really wondering, is it really safe? Do I really have to be out there? But when we actually out there and we know that there's like people who really need the service, like, nurses, like, people who works at the call center for 911. So normally like people who was really traveling, who really like need the service, was just people who actually also frontliners just like us. So, it was all about like, keep your mental, keep your mental strength and to be able to deal with this. It's been really tough, but now, there's light coming out at the end of the tunnel, and more people coming to work, more people just like, we see people just really going out there. But for us that's been out there, working in the front line, it was really, really, really tough. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let us move on to another question. So life is changing for many of us, and jobs are going to be an issue, as we've kind of already discussed. What advice can we give to some of the young adults who've just graduated, the class of 2020? How can we encourage them in these changing times to approach the job search?
I'll go. So I'm currently in school, and I graduated 3 years ago, but knowing the things that I know now, Alex, you actually brought up something that I was gonna say before. The wealth gap, because of COVID-19, the wealth gap is now starting to widen. So the advice that I would tell myself as soon as I graduated was, 1, learn the game of Monopoly, and 2, invest in real estate. The reason why I say that is because the #1 demand on this world is, besides life itself, of course, the #1 demand on this world is land, because it can't be recreated. And the game is to own as much of it as possible. So with big corporations, they are getting most of the benefits from this, because tax laws are all tailored around real estate. In order for a business to expand or to grow, the 2 things that they focus on is advertisement and expansion. And the expansion part is literally just the real estate. So if I had to give advice to young adults or people that just had graduated, learn the game of Monopoly and invest in real estate, because that's the game that we're playing today. That's mine.
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and chime in myself. Being a young individual, recent graduate from college, it is times like this, like coronavirus, has made it very important for us to realize that we have to save. As a Black community, Black people, this is one thing that we struggle with, and it's savings. So instilling an emergency savings, just in case if things like this was to happen again. This brings, into importance that saving is very important. Not just that, sometimes, you have to make sure that you're in a position like, okay, we're engineers. I know there's other fellow engineers here, but just having that job security, making sure, you're aware of what's going on. And in cases like this, people in the medical field, they're actually hiring more than ever now with coronavirus, because they need everyone possible to help fight this disease. And it also makes you take into a thought, turning your trade into a business. What skills do you have? Whether it be art, what can you bring to the table to bring money into your pocket in a time like this, where you can be out of work for 2-3 months? Aside from that, seeking learning, like Ryan just said, real estate, that's very important, but also investing into stocks. and finding ways of finding residual income. And also just surrounding yourself with the right group of people who are like ourselves, who are looking for the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, so that all sounds good. I really like what I'm hearing so far. But Gary and I, we wanted to chime in, but Gary, we both agree on this. What did you want to say, Gary?
Get out of debt. You're in debt, make every effort to get out. If you're not in debt, try to use your resources, your funds, not to get into the system where you're owing someone that plus interest.
Right, so I do like that. Get out of debt. Stop borrowing money, because especially schools, I'm one to, I can raise my hand to that one, still paying off student loans. So like what I've heard before with Ryan, Carl, Emerson, try to be independent as the best you can, okay? So that's all I have to say.
Okay, and then Reggie, did you want to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. So I get what you're saying, guys, by being independent. But let's say you want to work for corporate America, you want to be, do those things. I guess you just have to know people, right? There's a say that says it's about what the people you know, it's not about what you know. And personally, for me, when I was trying after I graduated from college, I went the other way. So trying to get jobs and stuff like that. So if you're trying to get to corporate America, I would say try to get into a network, get people, try to get to know people, go to seminars, go to anything that you think that can give you like that network, to get that job. The other thing that I think from a corporate perspective is to look at the job that you are looking for and see the skills that they are asking and try to gap that skills. Let's say you don't know how to use, I'm gonna give an example, you don't know how to use CAD. You try to get yourself ready and get those training so you can be ready. And what Ryan was saying by being independent, being in real estate, but again, if you wanna be like in corporate America, you had to know people, I'm telling you. So that's what I had to say.
I think one of the things that just really changed everything, we have to acknowledge that if this virus would have struck 10 years from now, the damage would have been more significant. And one of the reasons that some of us not really feeling the hit, it's just, for now, we still have injections of capital into the economy. And the fact that the technology allows us to, keep the income coming for those who have the luxury to work from home. And that kind of like sustained the economy. But, I think from like 3 months from now, we're gonna start feeling the hit. But, lucky us, but it'll be worse for those who like absolutely unemployed. And just to corroborate what Ryan said, I think it's time for us to see things in a different, at a different level. Like start taking benefit of what's out there for us in terms of tools, in terms of knowledge. These are things that I think that we should start by using them in our own benefit. Like relying on corporate or think that you need to know certain people have some kind of acquaintance just to get things done. I think, you know, it's about time to use the whole system in our advantage, you know, acquire lands, get into the stocks market, because these are things that you could just go ahead and just like, you know, be on your computer and know exactly the information, do the analytics, and so you could just get yourself out there. I think this whole COVID, you know, with the George Floyd put all together, that should be a catalyst to us to create new entrepreneurs, new young, a different kind, you know, a different kind of, you know, just I think at some point that will bring our community and have more Black investors. I think like those kids coming up, they need to see models. They need to see us as models. They need to see, I think our whole culture needs to be changed. And at that point, that will guarantee us a better future.
Cool. I'd like to add something. In addition to what everyone is saying, absolutely prepare yourself with financial education, understanding investments, right? And all the different avenues to remove yourself from possibilities of putting yourself in debt. You absolutely don't want to do that. Also, with the point made about networking, it is a little bit different for us, okay? I'm gonna be candid about that. It is important for us to network, absolutely. But it's different for us to use the, it's not about what you know, who you know. Because for us, it's absolutely about what we know. And it's gonna have to be tested and tested until proven, in addition to who you know, okay? So absolutely join networking groups. Continue to, within those networks, try to find yourself a mentor during this time. If you're not actively working, try to find yourself a resource that will help sponsor you when you start working, right? If it's an internship or otherwise, or a fellowship or anything. If you are actively working, ally yourself with a senior person or partner in your industry to sponsor you, to be your mentor, to advocate for you and for your talents. During this time, you have to open yourself to creativity and flexibility. This is an opportunity for you if you are in technical fields or anything like that, to take your skills and see if you can apply them on a remote level. There's a lot of remote opportunity that is coming out of this. And I want you to remember that this is a changing era. This is a transition that we're going into a new normal, right? There is no, when we get out of this, we can continue. This is, as we move forward, we will establish a new normal. And with that in mind, you need to understand what your skills are, what your brand is, and prepare to market yourself for this new normal, okay? You have to challenge yourself to think outside of the box, because business leaders are thinking outside of the box as a daily exercise today. How are we going to change our strategies, our policies, adapt and change our organization's culture to this new normal? Because at the end of the day, it's going to affect our bottom line. But we need to be progressive in this thinking, right? So you need to prepare yourself. How can you market yourself moving forward in this era, right? How can you understand what direction your industry is taking? Continue to stay informed, stay abreast to reading of whatever's going on in your industry, so that as they make a move, you stay ahead so you can make your moves also. And I think that's very important for us, because our moves are different from the other moves. You know, not too long ago, we were talking about white privilege, and you have to keep that in the back of your mind if you believe that that's an obstacle for you, right? If you're not yet seasoned to speak with your talents for yourself, to defend yourself, to negotiate your salaries for yourself, you need to use those tools as your personal resources, right? You know, challenge yourself, use those tools to your advantage, and take advantage of the opportunities presented before you. Thank you.
That was very well said. I think everybody has said great advice that recent graduates and just young people as a whole need to start thinking about. Okay, so this is a closing question to all panelists. So as young, educated men and women, what can you do to make your voice heard about racial inequality and promote change? If you could only focus on one issue facing Black and Brown Americans today, what is it? So what can we do to promote change, and what can we do to make our voices heard? And what do you think is like the main issue affecting us today?
I'd like to take a stab at this since it's fresh on my mind. So, you know, from within our institutions, right, from a corporate level or any organization or industry, I always encourage people to always be an active participant in any decision-making event, any decision-making process. No matter the size of your part or involvement in it, be it you're the person who fills out a survey, or you're the person who's on the board of presenting the idea, or if you're the last person to have a vote on what is said at the end of the meeting. You want to be present and you want to stay involved, right? If you have children that are in the school age system, K through 12, right? You want to join the educational system committees in your school district because you want to have a voice. You want to express your general interest in that education system and its contribution to your local communities, right? You want to be able to be present and fulfill in completing things like the 2020 census, where you have ability to control on your end the data that is inputted for the outputs that come back into your community, to your hospitals, to your local transit systems, to your healthcare and educational systems. That's within your control from the input in, right? You want to encourage your community members to also be active in participating, patronizing, and taking advantage of programs and incentives that are offered to help them. A lot of people want to say, you know, it's a downfall to do handouts, but are you going to look at it from a very negative, denotative perspective? Or if it's there for you, be that opportunist and take advantage of it and flip it around and make it something that is going to help you get ahead because it's there for you to use. So you might want to take advantage of that opportunity, right? And the last thing I want to say is I think a focus that we can have today is unity. There's always an argument in the Black, Brown community about we don't have a lot of brotherhood. We don't have a lot of community. My brothers and sisters don't support me. Women don't always support each other in the community or at a professional level. So do that. You know, be the change that you want to see. You know, unite, show respect, continually support and sponsor each other, because that's the frequent battle that is not prioritized. And it has the biggest effect on what we're experiencing in these biasing determinants today. Thank you.
How do you go after that? You pretty much answered it. Like, oh man.
She took it all out of our mouths.
Yeah, for real. Really, she did.
Sad.
Yeah. I guess I'll go because we also have to go soon. But again, thank you, IT Conexión for inviting Priscilla and I to participate. This was a great conversation. And to answer your question, Arnell, I think as young adults, to make our voices heard, we're setting the stage for Generation X to, or Generation Z, excuse me, to, to step up to the challenge. And we have to challenge that generation to be better, not worse, but better than us. Because, I like to say that we kind of missed the point, or, we missed the mark on it. And we have all the platforms at our fingertips to reach out to our local leaders, to reach out to our people that we look up to, people that they, that they admire and stuff like that. Reach out to them and kind of make themselves heard about issues that you may go through personally or things that you see in your local community. And to what Vanessa said, yes, there, not everybody knows about a lot of, local events that are happening. And, with Generation X, everything's pretty much online. So they should use these type of platforms as tools
the same way that we're making our voices heard about you know, the Black Lives Matter movement, it's the same way that it should be addressed as far as other issues, whether it's local or on a global basis. So that's it.
And I guess to add on to that a little bit is definitely get involved in your corporation. When like a lot of, I think all of these corporations are coming out now with like statements to try to understand the diverse population more. So I would definitely suggest, like, if they're having town halls or meetings, definitely get involved and let your voice be heard. And I did want to say, I think a major issue would be just working the healthcare system, like healthcare access for minorities. I see most of these patients in the trials that we're doing at the hospital are mostly Hispanics and Blacks. So that's been really hard for me to see, and I can see that the problem is healthcare access for minorities, or a lot of them can't afford it or feel like they can't get this help. So I think that's a big problem as well.
Good. Thank you.
Well, would anyone else like to?
turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want about to say about the last question, but I'm going to say it in French. Comme nous sommes comment je peux dire ça? Vraiment, si on veut vraiment que ça change, il faut continuer à se battre pour que ça change. Il faut continuer à, disons, vraiment nous faire entendre pour que vraiment que ça change. Et il faut aussi que, entre Noirs, que nous soyons unis. Il ne faut pas que nous soyons divisés. Même quand vous voyez les Blancs, entre eux, ils s'entendent. Mais entre Noirs, il faut qu'on montre vraiment la différence.
I want to say something real quick. What's up? So, you know, I think, you know, what I want to focus on, I think it's just to be some sort of influence in my company and or the people I work with. And we have to, you know, I see a lot of people saying, go vote. But I think when we vote, we also have to hold people accountable. So yes, we need to vote, but we also need to make sure that we're holding who we're voting for accountable for the shortcomings. And we have to be very vocal about that. We can't just vote and then forget about it. So that's one thing I want to focus on. And the other thing is the power of the media. Media is very powerful. And you see how Colin Kaepernick got shut down. So, you know, whenever we're going to speak up about problems in the workplace, you know, these corporations are designed to keep us quiet so they can be comfortable. So the CEOs can be comfortable because they don't want anything distracting from them making money. So we can't lose focus. We have to make sure that we stay influential, and we have to, you know, we have to fight through that. We have to use our influence. Black people are very influential people. Our culture is strong. People love our culture more than they love us. So we have to use that to our advantage, and you know, just stay the course. That's my plan moving forward.
Yeah. Great.
Lucy?
Yes, I would say this: if not us, then who? If not now, then when? Because we got to start now by respecting each other, by empowering and accepting each other. It's time to stop the stereotypes. It's time to think positive. Toute personne vivant ici aux États-Unis a droit de jouir des mêmes biens et services de manière égale, et ceci indépendamment de la couleur de peau de chaque individu. C'est ce que j'avais à ajouter.
Okay, great. Does anybody else want to chime in? Okay. Well, we would like to thank Haiti Connection for just giving us the space and the opportunity to have these conversations, to really dissect what's been going on in our communities and really think about actionable steps that we can take forward. We hope that everybody watching enjoyed the conversation. We hope that learned something, and we hope that it started a conversation in your head how you can communicate with your families and your colleagues going forward, because we know that it's great that we talk about it here, but we have to spread the message outside as well and get our communities talking as well. So yes, thank you guys so much for all our panelists for devoting your time and your energy and thinking, giving time to give educated responses and really share your thoughts with everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Great being part of you.
Thank you, IT Connection, for this good initiative. Thank you.
It was a great talk. Bye-bye.